This is Hannah Burner from Giggly Squad. O-Pill is the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Let's be real, getting a birth control prescription is not always easy, and it's so much admin. In fact, about a third of women face barriers to access prescription birth control. Between scheduling appointments, missing work, class, or just trying to exist, it's a lot. But now O-Pill is putting birth control in our control. O-Pill is a daily birth control that's FDA approved, full prescription strength, and estrogen free, and 98% effective when used as directed. Grab it online or at most major retailers, no prescription or doctor's appointment needed. So if you're thinking about birth control, check out O-Pill to see if it's right for you. Use code GIGGLY for 25% off your first month of O-Pill at OPILL.com. That's code GIGGLY at OPILL.com. Birth control in your control. We love to see it.
Hello everyone and welcome to Howie the Podcast. It's Gav and you join us for our Saturday morning roundup of Sunderland shite. Loads going on in the world, lots to talk about, transfer news, news updates. We've got games today and we thought we would convene to chat all about it. I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen. First up, we've got Chris Wynn. Hello, mate.
Hello. When are these two lovely gentlemen turning up? You need to, do I have to wait 5 minutes to get going? Or are they going to turn up in a bit? But no, it's very, very nice to be with you and talk about the current goings on at Sunderland Football Club because it's been a while since I've been on one of these, and I've done a few historical ones in between. So it's nice to get back to the current day.
I was going to say, we just wheel you out whenever we've got something old to talk about.
What do you mean, wheel me out? What do you mean? Bloody hell. I'm not decrepit, you know.
Well, we'll leave that to the listeners to decide. Also here is Johnny Hawley, who is definitely not decrepit, as we just constantly take the piss out of him for being young. I say we, I don't, Chris does. So, Chris, you bring it on yourself, really. But, Johnny is with us. Hello, mate.
Yeah, good evening. No shock to the listeners that it is Friday evening when we're recording this. So, it's been 30 degrees all day. Absolutely sweated myself to death. Had a couple of pints and ready to talk about Sunderland. So, bring it on.
That's it. Yeah, we've dragged ourselves out the garden, haven't we, to come and record this podcast. I hope the listeners appreciate the sacrifices we make, because while they're sat in the garden this lovely Friday night with a drink, We've came inside to talk about Sunderland, so I do hope they appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid standing up during this pod because I'm only clothed from the waist up. You see, because it's that hot, so I'll refrain from doing that.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we are an audio only pod, so you can do what you want, really. Oh, I mean, there's only me and Johnny will be offended.
Well, I'll get Johnny to make that noise again that he made when Bomber gave his top 10.
Yeah. Well, I've had to put down me whiskey and ginger to come inside and talk about football, but I don't mind it because Sunderland at the minute are giving us loads to talk about. And other than us sitting here and going, do we have to do this? I actually quite enjoy it. It's weird, isn't it?
Love it there. Yeah. Sitting there, like, what did we say you were like with Onslow with your vest on there, living one foot in the grave?
I wish people could see this, actually. Should we start doing video? Because I do look like Onslow.
Honestly, we really don't want to do video, Gav, if looking at you.
He's not from 1 foot in the grave, by the way. That shows how old I am. I know that he's not from 1 foot in the grave. He's from Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, Keeping Up Appearances, that's it. The other one.
Yeah. We would look ridiculous, man, if we were on video. We've got a lad in a vest. We've got a lad in a polo shirt. We've got me in a linen fucking shirt here. Like,
you look like you've just been to, I don't know, Afghanistan or Pakistan or something. You're wearing like your full regalia there. You look like you're dressed for the heat, to be fair.
Nowhere quite that exotic.
With the worst
I wish,
Well, the worst boy band going, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Anyway, should we talk about football? Because we're just going off in all kinds of different directions. Football. Sunderland, yay! Sunderland play today, by the way, which is good, isn't it? We're back, finally. Say finally, it feels like literally 2 seconds since I was at Wembley, man. Where's that? 6 weeks, 7 weeks gone? Just, Jesus wept. But yeah, we are back and the season officially starts today, doesn't it? We've got a game against Gateshead, which is basically a kids' game now because they didn't have a pitch that was suitable to play on. So they're moving the game to Hebben Town's ground and we're now just sending a development team to that game and then the first team squad, which, to be fair, and we'll get onto this, haven't seen the injury news, I'm surprised we can get a team out. But the first team squad, which is heading to take on South Shields, they play later in the afternoon. So there are 2 games today. The club are only streaming the Shields game, presumably because Hebburn just don't have the facilities to stream football games, which would make sense given they're a Northern Premier League team and not a professional football club. But yeah, Chris, we put the preview out, which people can listen to if they haven't already heard it. You spoke to Mark Carruthers, who is a local non-league football reporter, and it wasn't dated by this news that the game had moved, so it's absolutely fine if people want to go back and listen to it. They can. It's definitely worth doing, and Mark really knows his stuff about non-league football. So I enjoyed it. I learned quite a lot. But that news came on Thursday night that they were moving the game, and it's disappointing for me that Gateshead have fluffed this, really, because Sunderland, by all intents and purposes, in my opinion, are doing the local non-league sides a favour. We put these pre-season games on. Sunderland fans always travel well; they get the games, and for whatever reason, the pitch isn't ready to be played on. What we've heard is that it's only half recovered from last season, and Sunderland officials went earlier in the week to check it out and realised it was a complete mess and said there is no way we're playing on this, and that threw everything up in the air. And it's just disappointing because all that money that Gateshead could have taken on the gate, that they could have taken in beer and whatever else, programmes and pies and whatever else, car park spaces even that they sold to people, all these things which are revenue to this football club, it's going to Hebburn Town now. It's frustrating for them. I feel sorry for their fans, but they must be so pissed off with their own club. And it's crap for Sunderland because Sunderland were going to send 2 teams which were going to be split, first team 11s with development players, and fans would have had that big day out that they've had for the last 3 years now, where they jump on the Metro, they have a good day out on the drink, they go watch the football, they see 2 games, see first team players in both. Just, disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole conversation with me and Mark, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit because Mark was very complimentary about Sunderland in terms of making it a bit of a tradition and helping those clubs out. And actually, he said a couple of times, he said, almost thanks to Sunderland for kind of looking out for the local non-league sides and helping them out with things like this. And I think I said during that pod that when you looked, I don't think my sources were the best. I do think it was our favourite Wikipedia, Johnny, that I was looking at. But I'm sure, like when you looked at South Shields, I think it was something like 4 out of their top 6 attendances or something were against Sunderland or something like that. And looking at even Gateshead, their biggest attendance was in a friendly against Newcastle. So although it's not to the point where they rely on things like this, but it helps. Like you've got not only, and if you looked how much, I think, what was it, 20 quid a ticket for Gateshead, which was ridiculous in itself. But especially now especially what's happened, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone tried to get a refund, and then all that money was basically banked. That almost, I guess, they'd probably sold out the majority of their tickets, 20 quid a pop. Now, if you've got to refund all that back suddenly, when you just thought that's our money and we've banked it, and then you say, oh, well, it's what, 3 quid, 4 quid a pint on top of that, and you've got 5,000 people buying a pint, or at least one, it all adds up, and, it pays for something, it pays to keep the lights on even for a few months or whatever. But it's just ridiculous that they'd left it late in the day, and you can't tell me that the state of the pitch, they didn't know there wasn't a problem. It's not like this happened overnight. And you two probably remember better than me, but I'm sure that last year or the year before, I remember saying that the pitch was crap there. I remember we were saying, oh, look at the state of the pitch and we might get an injury here and things like that compared to South Shields. But it's just ridiculous how they're doing this late in the day. And from a Sunderland point of view, we would have had a pre-season plan set up. We would have said, right, these guys are all going to get 45 minutes to kick it off, in the sunshine, a bit of a slow pace against Shields, against Gateshead, right? And Labrie, we know how much he plans. He'll have had it all planned out. He'll have known who was going to get 45 minutes, who needs 20 minutes here, who needs, a full game or 60 minutes. He would have had it all planned out. So Gateshead haven't just shot themselves in the foot. they've impacted us. And I think you might have, I'm sure you might have said it either in the chat or whatever, Gav. But I think they've shot themselves in the foot for the future for Sunderland, because we'll go elsewhere. We'll have a double bill against Shields, maybe even Hebben. See how that game goes. With them hosting it or whatever, somewhere else. But I think Gateshead have stuffed it. Whether they're bothered because it's Sunderland, I don't know. But they're going to be losing out on some money somewhere. And I can't imagine Sunderland, being too receptive to them when they start, if there's any negotiations for next season.
That's it. I think it's you touched on it there. They must have known that this pitch was going to be a problem. I mean, don't want to reveal too much about who told us this, but I was told that the groundsman at Gateshead had actually acquired green paint to try and hide the state of the pitch, and that wasn't needed after Sunderland had inspected it and had decided they weren't going to play on it. I mean, we haven't seen the state of it, but one of our own contributors, Ian Bendlow, was there for the half marathon in May, and he sent a photo of the pitch from that day, and there was craters all over it. There were bubbles in it, and that was back in May. So they've had since May to fix the pitch, and we don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure it's frustrating for Gateshead Football Club. I know that the council have a lot to do with that facility. I don't know whether Gateshead actually maintain the pitch themselves. We don't know these things, but, you've got Premier League. I saw the advert they put out, and it was like the Premier League's coming to Gateshead, and, you've got this big day where it's a really big opportunity to earn money. The least you can do is make sure your pitch is in shape. And you're right, Chris, they've probably shot themselves in the foot, haven't they, Johnny? Like I say, I don't like to punch down on smaller clubs and non-league clubs, especially local ones who need our help. But you've got to think, if, this is the third year now where we've done the Gateshead and Shields double header, you've got to think that next year we're probably going to do something else. There's Hartlepool, who aren't too far down the A19, Darlington even, who play the National League North, Spennymoor. We might just decide to do like a Darlington and Spennymoor, or a Hartlepool and Darlington, and keep it in that area so it's easy for fans to get from one game to the other. I don't know what we would do, but you've got to think that the club are going to be pissed off about this, because they've left it right at the end. And as Chris said, the most important thing from the club's perspective is this has affected our pre-season preparations. We were going to give 90 two lots of 90 minutes to two different squads, and now we aren't. It's going to be a complete development squad going to play the Gateshead game, and then obviously the first team squad playing in that South Shields game. But you've got to think the club are going to be very annoyed about this, and probably are going to think twice next time we have to plan out pre-season.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me is that they would have known about the state of the pitch in advance. Like, you cannot tell me that no matter what level of football the club plays at, that the ground staff aren't able to tell whether a pitch is going to be so bad they have to cancel the game with more than a few days' notice. It's not possible. Like you say, the pictures that Ian sent or whatever, that's months away. And if the pitch was that bad several months ago, and they've had a lot of time since then to then try and obviously work on it and, maybe breathe a bit of life into it. I mean, whatever ground staff do on a day-to-day basis to try and sort stuff out, they've had plenty of time to go through that process, and they would have known that. You can't tell me they don't have checkpoints almost along the way to kind of say, right, after 2 weeks it should look like this, after 4 weeks it should look like this. They've passed that time by a long distance and said nothing to anybody, and then days before the game it's all come out that actually it has to move and it's unacceptable, and it's not good enough. And like you say, I've got sympathy with them, obviously, with the size of the club. It's not like they're a Premier League team turning around and saying 2 days before the game, "Oh, by the way, lads, the grass is a bit shit." Like, that'd be a totally different story. But it's not good enough, and I totally agree as well. I think next summer we as a fan base should expect to see a very different setup instead of this double header. It's not going to be Gateshead, is it?
No.
But even though, I mean, they might say, "Oh, well, it's the council's fault," or whoever looks after it, that it's not in the right nick. But just imagine if we weren't on the ball and we hadn't inspected the pitch beforehand and we just trusted that it was fine. And the Gateshead, in terms of the football club, hadn't said anything. We rock up with new signings and, we signed a player for over 30 million or whatever, and he rocks up and breaks his ankle or something on a on a divot or a or a hole in the ground, basically what we're looking at the pictures from May, it would have been like everyone would have been outraged about it, and Sunderland would have been human. And we've basically, and it shows actually that we are on the ball with these sort of things, which I think is great, that we've actually thought ahead. We haven't just trusted that everything will be fine. We haven't just said, well, we've organised it, so we'll turn up. We've actually put our foot down and said, that isn't good enough. We're changing this. And we're not going to do what was planned.
Yeah, and interestingly, if we keep an eye on it, they're meant to be playing Doncaster there on Tuesday night, which again, they've sold as a big occasion because their former player, which I think you talked to Mark about this on the preview, Owen Bailey's coming back as captain of Doncaster to play Gateshead on Tuesday night. And I mean, if you're Doncaster, you're probably looking at this and going, we aren't playing. If it's not good enough for Sunderland, it's not good enough for us. So yeah, it's a disappointing one for Gateshead. We'll quickly move into the South Shields game since we're talking pre-season. Like I said, we're going to be sending a development squad to play Gateshead at Hebburn, but the first team are going to be playing South Shields at 4:00 on Saturday afternoon, and tickets are sold out. We know it's going to be an entire group of first teamers, but we did get some injury news on Friday afternoon, which is worth noting. Adji Elise and Luke O'Nien are progressing well after both having shoulder surgery, and Dennis Sirkin, with that wrist problem, which he had all last season, presumably had pins removed or something over the summer, some sort of operation on his wrist. And Leo Hjelde. So we've got 4 defenders all missing, 3 of whom would probably be actually even Luke O'Nien can play left back. 4 of whom could have played left back. Are all going to be missing for at least the first 3 Premier League fixtures before return to contention after the September international break. So that's 4 very important players that we're going to be missing, not just all the way through pre-season, but for the first 3 games of the Premier League season. And but in good news, we've got Habib Diarra available. He's probably going to play in that South Shields game, which is fantastic. Fans will get to see one of the new signings. Noah Siddiqui and Chemsden Talby both still waiting for their international clearance, which is why they aren't available. And in the case of Simon Adingra and Ronaldo Mandava, they will not be part of the squad which goes, mainly because I think Ronaldo has still got a few weeks of his holidays left because he was playing in the Club World Cup for Atletico just a couple of weeks ago. So we kind of know what squad is available. Johnny, I don't know if you've had a chance to really work out what sort of teams Sunderland will be playing or who might be involved. I was looking before thinking, Christ, who's going to play left back? And I was, all I could come up with was Joe Anderson and Niall Huggins. So it's going to be one of them, isn't it? But we've not got much in terms of defenders at the minute. And it kind of highlights the need to recruit.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to be one of those where we end up possibly seeing quite a few players involved who don't actually have a future at the club. As sort of purely a
What, you mean Joe Anderson doesn't have a future at Sunderland?
Shock, breaking news, guys, by the way. Joe Anderson's not actually a Premier League player. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be one of those where we maybe see a little bit of sort of needs must in a few of those selections. Like you say, Joe Anderson's an option. Even Huggins is somebody who, not that he doesn't have a future, but he's not somebody who we're expecting to be involved in the first 11 in the first couple of games. Like,
yeah, I tell you what, you say that, and you're probably right. But when you see this injury news come through, it's a carrot to dangle to him.
Well, yeah,
we've got faith in you. We think you're a good player, Niall. Like these lads are all going to be unavailable for a while. If you have a good pre-season and you show your worth, you never know that they've got to dangle that carrot to him.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think wouldn't have happened if we did have everybody fit and available and the new signings had come in. I think you'd be seeing much more of it's 2 11s really, isn't it? We're probably going to have effectively a first half 11 and a second half 11, give or take a couple. You'd possibly be seeing something more like what we'd expect to see in those first few games if there weren't these injury problems. But yeah, like you say, it's a massive opportunity. Not just this game, but the next few games over the kind of first opening weeks of pre-season for those players who otherwise wouldn't have got a look in at this stage, or if they did, they certainly wouldn't be starting games. These players have got a chance to actually, throw out a bit of a claim for their name being in that starting 11, or for the players who were further afield, getting themselves in the bench, get themselves in the squad and involved for those first few games, which is something that would be a massive, massive opportunity for them. If you are a Niall Huggins or there's several names we could rattle through, but if you're one of those players who's in and around the periphery, the chance of being in a Premier League squad or a Premier League 11 is massive. So I think, it's going to be really interesting then to see who does get a chance, and possibly more tellingly, doesn't get a chance. If there are conspicuous names by their absence, that'll tell us a lot about who's going to be leaving the club over the next few weeks, I would think.
Yeah, we went through it on the pod last week. Me, Johnny, and Bomber Chris, who we thought would leave the club over the summer, and we'll come on to transfers in a bit. But Johnny's right. We're going to have a good idea of who's in the plans and who isn't, based on who's involved, I would imagine. And it is disappointing, isn't it? I guess we kind of expected that these players would be missing, but to read that they'll all be missing till basically the end of September, it is a blow, because especially in the case of Cirkin and Onai, and they were very important in that run towards the end of last season when we got promoted, and both started the game in the playoff final. So we're not going to have them available for a while, and again we're going to come on to recruitment and transfers in a bit. But pre-season is just about getting players fit, particularly those first few games, like the Shields game. It isn't a contest; it's a chance to get as many players on the park as we can get on the park, right? I mean, but at the same time, these injuries highlight the problems we've got in terms of depth.
I'm not sure, actually. You're talking about problems in depth. I'm not sure it does. I think it actually highlights almost the size of the squad we've got, because with all of those out, we'll start the season with potentially on paper, Hume at right back and Ronaldo at left back. And then we've still got Cirkin injured, O'Nien injured, Elise injured. and I'll throw Hjelde into that list if you want, but we've got the other three injured. But yeah, I think it highlights. And then you're still talking Huggins after that. You're talking Sealt, who can play right back, Brown, emergency right back, who I fully expect to be at full back against Shields, because I can't think of anyone else unless there's a young lad knocking on the door.
Your full back options, because basically they're going to play two different teams over the 45 on this. So you've got you've got Anderson, Hume, Huggins, and probably Brown.
Yeah. And I was looking at the Shields game last season where we won 5-0, and actually it's going to be completely different, because you looked at the series of substitutions that Labrie made in that, and there was 2 who came off at half time, and the rest, there was a whole bunch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 who came off after 72 minutes. But that'll be completely different. I think that would have been the plan. That would have been the plan to get a good hour into their legs and get them used to it again and get as much time as possible. That's not possible now, so it's all going to be 45 minutes. But no, I mean, look, I honestly do. I think it shows actually we've got some strength and depth. For players like Huggins, he doesn't need a carrot. Look, he's now got something in front of him where he can try and get fit once again and make that comeback. He needs to just prove he's fit for either trying to get a chance at Sunderland, which is very unlikely, but it's the last year of his contract as well. And if he breaks down again this season, he's unfortunately in a bit of bother. Not just being released, but finding another club. So I mean, he's got enough carrots kind of in front of him to try and latch on to, especially, the biggest one is to break through in the Sunderland's first team and get some Premier League football, which I think we all wouldn't mind seeing, because I think we all quite like Niall Huggins as a player. And if he hadn't picked those injuries up, then potentially he had that potential to do it. Elise is the other one. I feel a bit sorry for Elise, because at the beginning of last season, Labrie had the confidence to go in with him in the first team. He started the season at centre half, and I think Labrie really liked him. I think he was unfortunate last season to be out as long as he was, but to have that injury again at the start of the season, when Labrie, if he has picked up a couple of injuries, might think, oh well, actually, I can stick him in, and he's in missing again. You just kind of fear for him, because it's one of these things that if you keep picking those injuries up and you go out the picture for too long, it's really difficult to then get back in, because almost by the club have almost moved on, and you just hope he does get back in at some point and get back fully fit, because he is a cracking player. But yeah, you're talking 3 top players who could get in the team out injured, and we've still got good options at fullback. And would you be surprised if we brought another one in, or another 2 centre halves, where one of those centre halves can play fullback? I certainly wouldn't be surprised. And when you look as well, I think looking back, and I'm trying to think, was it Siddiqui or Diarra, or possibly both of them, have filled in a fullback as well for their clubs in the past. So, I just think we'll have options. So I'm comfortable with that, and there's still plenty of time in the window. So, but this one, I think I might put it in the preview. I hope I did, because it's just gone out in terms of this podcast. But I did say with that let's not look too much into it. If a player gets 20 minutes, who knows what's behind it? That I remember thinking Hamir was a world beater when we played that doubleheader against Gateshead and South Shields, and
he is a world beater.
Well,
do not doubt him here.
Just depends on what level you're talking about. But yeah, I'm not going to read too much into it. If someone gets 20 minutes or half an hour rather than 45 minutes, I'm not going to look too much into it.
No, but I am excited to see Habib Diarra for the first time. That should be cool. Just getting to see him in a Sunderland shirt and what he can do. He'll be eager to impress. He'll be eager to show the fans, that he's here to roll his sleeves up and get stuck in pre-season. Should be fun. Well,
I was just thinking about that. If there's any place to get used to the Sunderland fans and meet all the Sunderland fans while they're having a few beers in the sun, there's no like it at Shields, is there?
Yeah, well, most of the Shield fans are Sunderland fans anyways, aren't
exactly,
they?
That's what I mean. Get them, your first meeting with all your fans while they're out in the lash on a hot day.
Yeah, should be good. But let's see what happens. We'll probably do some sort of reaction to the match after the game. Might just be quick, just to chat about how Diarra got on, how the lads got on. It won't be Chris, though. He's out on the sup. The twat.
Hello. Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on because we've spent an awful lot of time talking about that game. We're going to talk a little bit about Florent Ghisolfi, because he has done an interview with L'Equipe in France, the notable French newspaper stroke sports outlet, online dropper of news nuggets. Normally give us plenty to talk about when it comes to Sunderland, but he's done an interview with L'Equipe. Worth checking out if you are a French-speaking person with a L'Equipe subscription, or if you're me, you just find somebody else who's got one and catch the interview off them. So I am here to tell you all about what he said. He made a point to talk about the players we've signed so far, and said all of our recruits speak English. We don't sign players based on linguistic considerations, but on their potential, their ability to perform in the Premier League and to connect with our fans. Ronaldo, for example, will likely be adored here, as he was at Lille and Madrid, because he never gives up. It's a core value at Sunderland. He also went on to talk a little bit about the current squad. He said we have a solid core with players like Chris Rigg, Dan Ballard, Romain Mundle, and Luke O'Nien, who are of great quality and will play. I can never get through one of these without tripping over my own words. Will play a key role. And then the article went
major
on,
role.
Yeah. Went on to then drop a little nugget in about Pembele and Abdoullah Bar, who are apparently no longer needed and have been told they can leave. And also Adilo Shish that gets a mention, but he's obviously already gone. And then a really interesting piece here, which I want to focus on, where he says, our ambition is to become a major Premier League club again and reclaim a status that matches our history. Sunderland is a club that has won the English Championship 6 times and enjoys an incredible atmosphere at the Stadium of Light. 8 years away from the top flight don't change the fact that Sunderland is a Premier League club by definition. We want to keep bringing in high-level players who will fully embrace the Sunderland adventure. We are not afraid. We are Sunderland. We work with conviction. We don't look back. We look forward. Sounds like a man who's here and ready to go, Johnny, doesn't he, Florent Ghisolfi? I like the cut of his jib. I know talk is cheap. I would like to say, the deals we've made so far, he's had a big say in all of those, and you're already feeling his effect at the football club. But I don't know about you. You just get the impression that with this fella, he is big time, isn't he? And it makes me feel confident about Sunderland's chances when stepping up, that we have somebody of this calibre, fronting up for us, basically, speaking in the French media, turning up to the medicals and the photo shoots for players when we're signing them, But I do like what he had to say there.
He just speaks like somebody who's comfortable at this level, doesn't he? Which is, I think, something that we as a club obviously haven't got a massive amount of, not because of anything that anybody's done wrong, but just where we've been. You know, we've been in League One, we've been in the Championship. Obviously, we all at Roker Report generally think Christian Speakman's done a brilliant job. Obviously, you get, the occasional dissenting voice in the fan base, but obviously much less these days since we've kind of proven the method. But even with that, that you could justifiably kind of turn around and say, look, of all the people in the positions of power at this club, is there anybody there who has been there and done it, walked the walk at the level that we're at? That would have been a no until the last few weeks. And now we've got Ghisolfi, who, like you say, he talks the talk really well, which is one thing that you want to see, but he both has the experience to back it up, as well as, in my opinion, is already doing the actions to back it up as well. Because I think his point about Ronaldo was really interesting. He hasn't just given the platitude of all Sunderland fans love a trier, which is basically what he said in as many words. He's also pointed to the fact that, like, look, we've recognised that and we've brought this player in, understanding that one of his qualities is something that Sunderland fans love. It's almost the equivalent of, like, if, Speakman, when Trey Hume comes in, goes, aye, this lad flattens people and, runs about for 90 minutes a game, and Sunderland fans love that. Yeah, you can say it, but when the player backs it up, I think that's the most important part. And yeah, look, we haven't seen Ronaldo in a Sunderland shirt yet, so he might be rubbish for all we know. I don't think he will be, but until we've seen him, we can't say for sure. But yeah, Ghisolfi's making the right noises, and as I say, in my view, I think he's kind of backing that up already with what he's doing. And then in the fullness of time over the course of the season, we'll see whether we're right or not to trust him. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Gav. I think the early signs are massively promising, and it's a move that I think we needed to make when we stepped up. And it's pleasing to feel like we've actually brought the right person in without having to have that, low-level stress and anxiety over the rest of the summer if we were going to do all our business late, kind of getting to the end of July and August and starting to think like, any danger of this lad actually signing somebody? We've kind of got over that hurdle already, which is a nice position to be in.
Yeah, that bit about Barr and Pembele as well, Chris. No surprises there, really, that they're off, right? I mean, Johnny talked about players being conspicuous by their absence. Don't think we're going to see either of them. Although, it was interesting. Did you see that Instagram post from the meal prep place in Sunderland that was going around during the week, where they were doing prep food for Barr and Pembele? So they're on we're side, they are training, but they might be in the bomb squad. I guess we're going to find out this afternoon with the squad for the game. But yeah, those players have been told they can go. No shock, I would say. A little bit disappointing with Pembele because he was playing top-level football last season. I was kind of hoping he would go there, he would prove himself, maybe come back and show his worth. I mean, we're after full-backs, but it sounds like he's out the door.
I think it would be more surprising if I'd seen something on Instagram, Gav, if then they had a future at Sunderland. I think with Pembele and Barr, I don't think it's surprised anyone that they're out the door, really. I think last season in the Championship showed that, so we're not going to suddenly see them appear in the Premier League. But yeah, and I think as well as the interview being done with Ekwah, I mean, it is. They basically rang him up and said, "Can we have a French-orientated interview with you about very French-specific things?" Because I think if you read the opening gambit to the actual interview, which if you look at how much he actually said, I mean, it's what 1, 2, 3. It's like less than 10 lines on what he actually gave them in terms of information. But if you look at the opening gambit, it's talking about that the fact that there's potentially another little French kind of revolution, if you like, in the Premier League, because they mentioned Arsenal and how many players they had, Newcastle, in 2013. So they're kind of saying, there's a little French contingency. Let's ring them up and let's get a few lines out of them. That's basically where it's come from.
I did quite like the last line. A future that one way or another will be partly written in French. Quite like that.
Well, possibly, yeah. Don't really care, to be honest. But it's interesting though, because they try to make it this French thing, and he's basically saying that we don't care where they're from, and we're not looking We're not looking at the kind of French leagues and French players specifically. It's just that's where the current talent is that we've brought them in. But there were a couple of interesting bits. I mean, the interesting thing to start with was, of course, that all 4 of the people involved have their say on transfers. So you've got Speakman, Kira Louis-Dreyfus, obviously Regis Labrie and Ghisolfi all having to agree. So we've got that kind of recruitment group, which is essentially just got wider. I mean, that's the only thing because Ghisolfi's just been added to that. But the other interesting thing was, I mean, you did mention that one where he says, we're not afraid with Sunderland. And that was in response to a question that basically said every promoted club has gone back down for the last couple of seasons. And he said, we're not afraid with Sunderland. We work with conviction. Now, it does seem like that sort of language, though, has come out of how he's been recruited, where he's said, well, what are we about? Why should I come to Sunderland? And you can tell by the answer that he's given there that isn't necessarily just him saying it. I mean, that he's given the line. But that's clearly a conversation that's going on in the background. And I think that's something that we've seen for the last couple of years where they've got complete conviction in what they're doing. Even if there's a bump in the road or something doesn't quite go right for 6 months or a season, they say it's almost like, I mean, might be a crap example, but investing in the stock market, where if you look at the history for the last 10, 20 years, like, yeah, there's going to be some bumps in the road where it goes down. But actually, if you look over 20 years, it's gone up. And that's what they're looking at here, where they say, right, well, if we look over 10 years, we'll be in a better place at the end of those 10 years. But that doesn't necessarily mean every year on year, it's going to be better. It might have dips, it might get worse for a couple of years, but at the end of it, we're going to be in a better place. So I think that's what it's all about. It's saying, look, and you can tell that's the conversation going on by lines like that. And that's what you kind of take from it. And those are the interesting ones to me. Like the ones where he's talked about Chris Rigg, Dan Ballard, Mundell and 09. He's basically given some English names because they're going on about that we're getting this French identity. And he's went, no, hang on, we've got some English players here as well. So there's bits and pieces in there, but
Englishman,
yeah,
Dan Ballard, is it?
Just,
not Northern Irish International Englishman.
Well, you know what I mean.
I guess.
I was doing a David Moyes thing, the British contingents and all that. But yeah, well, he might have made the same mistake. Who knows? But yeah, you can tell by the way he talks. Johnny touched on it that he's operating at the top level, and you can tell by the way he responds to things.
Yeah, we'll move into transfers a bit more then, since since Chris skirted around the transfer question that I asked him. We'll move on to somebody who's a little bit more concrete.
I did. I said they were going to go.
Pierre Ekwah apparently has gone.
That first, didn't I?
Yeah, well, I'll let you off. Pierre Ekwah has apparently officially gone, no longer a Sunderland player. There is a story going round in the French media that at the final moment when there was a clause in June for them to make that move permanent, they did. But now there are other clubs looking at him, Strasbourg being one of them, I think. So, and I think Stuttgart, maybe? I might be wrong. But yeah, Pierre Ekwah is no longer apparently a Sunderland player, which I'm disappointed to hear because we didn't get any sort of official confirmation of that. And maybe that's something that'll come. Bit of a weird one, isn't it? That he's apparently gone a month ago and neither Saint Etienne or Sunderland have confirmed the move. It's, if that's true, it's a bit weird, but let's see what comes out of it. If anyone from Sunderland's listening, give us some clarity. We just want to know how our Pierre's gone. But that would be a bit of money back into the club, I guess, for a player who we weren't getting any use out of. Any disappointment there, Johnny, that Pierre Ekwah's gone? I know we did talk the other week, didn't we, about how apparently he did quite well last season in France, and it was Alex Barker from The Athletic who said to me that he was actually a bit shocked that he found out Pierre Ekwah was a Sunderland player because he's somebody he would have recommended as a signing for a club like Sunderland this season. But yeah, if he is gone, bit of a shame that he's gone and we haven't really been told about it, isn't it? Because he was quite popular.
Yeah, it's a shame. I liked him, to be honest. I really liked Ekwah when he was here. I thought seemed like the kind of character who kind of people gravitated towards in the changing room when we saw you can only read so much into it, but the kind of behind the scenes videos and, the Halloween maze stuff and all that, like the Christmas stuff and whatever. He seemed like a popular character. And look, particularly the back end of that season, was it 23, 24, sorry, the Michael Bale season and everything. He wasn't great. But then a lot of players weren't great at that time. And I thought, look, we don't know what happens behind the scenes, so who can talk about players' attitudes or what's happening in training or tactical reasons, whatever. I did think, just from my point of view, that I thought that Ekwah maybe should have been given another chance in the team the next season, but obviously he went out on loan and he's, done all right. The only shame, I think, so I agree that we should be told, if he's gone, it would be nice if the club could say, by the way, we've just sold somebody for 7 million. That feels like the kind of thing that should be communicated. But I think the shames are that I think there was a player in there, so optimistically I'd like to see him given a chance. But that aside, selfishly, you're almost thinking, well, if there are teams of the level of Strasbourg and Stuttgart interested in him, could we have done a little bit better than whatever the clause was? I think, like I say, I think it was 7 million in the end. Euros, I believe, but a little bit fuzzy on it. But, could we have possibly tried to hold out for a little bit more money? Maybe, but overall, look, it's the kind of deal that keeps the model churning, isn't it? You bring somebody in for a not very big outlay. Ideally, you get a bit of football out of them like we did with Ekwah, but even if you don't, either way, they get a loan deal, they do all right, they prove themselves, and you sell them for a lot more money than you bought them for. So I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it at the end of the day, but it is a shame because I do think in another world, given another set of circumstances, I think there's a world where Pierre Ekwah, to a degree, succeeds at Sunderland. And it's a shame we haven't seen it, but yeah, good luck to the guy as well. I hope he does well, wherever he ends up in the end of this whole transfer window shake-up.
Yeah, that's kind of it in terms of outgoings, but in terms of incomings, Chris, we have been linked with West Ham's Moroccan. You'll be surprised we've been linked with another African player. West Ham's Moroccan centre-half, Nayef Aguad. And he apparently has met with Sunderland, it says in this story, which is from a Moroccan outlet, which I'm not sure if it's a particularly legit source, but he has been linked with Sunderland over recent days, and this is oddly specific, so certainly worth commenting on. But they've said Sunderland met with Nayef Aguad's representatives on Thursday to discuss a potential transfer, with the player contacting his compatriot Shemsden Talbi to get a feel for the club and whether it met his sporting ambitions. I think in the story it said that he wants to stay in the Premier League, and the mooted fee was around £8 million. I mean, it's nice to be linked with a centre-half first and foremost, Chris, one that is clearly highly rated, has played in France, so he'll be known to our higher-ups, our manager, our new director of football. Can't claim to know a lot about Aguad. Again, people are going to butcher my pronunciation of that. But somebody who has Premier League experience, hasn't worked out for him at West Ham. If we are linked with them, people do seem pretty high on this one. What I'm reading on social media, people who've watched him play are saying, no, he is good. It just hasn't worked at West Ham. He hasn't getting the chances and all the rest of it. But it is interesting. Now we've recruited 6 players. We're moving our focus to positions where it probably does need it. I mean, especially when you look at those injuries, with the amount of players we've got missing, we could do with a couple of defenders, I think, even just to kick the season off and make sure we start in the right fashion, right? So I'm not going to ask you if you know who he is, if you know a lot about him, but is that the sort of link which gets your taint tingling, or is it not one that particularly bothers you?
Ish, not
Johnny liked that one, by the way. Does your taint not tingle, Johnny? He's had to put his cell on mute so he can laugh.
You killed us there, like.
Chris is just taking a sip before he answers that.
I just needed some Corona to settle myself before I cracked into that one. But no is the honest answer to that. We were linked with some centre halves early in the window, and they seem to be higher profile than this lad. And he's 29 years old, and you're talking not huge sums of money. If you're talking less than, look, we're talking less than 10 million now, because we've already jumped into that end of the market where we're signing players for 20, 30 million. Potentially,
West Ham paid 30 for him, so he went there for a lot of money.
Yeah, but he's 29 and they sent him out on loan. So, he's obviously, West Ham are thinking there's not something great with him if they sent him out Real Sociedad on loan, where he was last season, and he played like 20 games over the course of 20 games per season the 2 seasons before that. So it's not like he was kind of 35, 40 games a season for them. And yeah, I mean, I think he might be a good addition in terms of just numbers. And if we can get him going maybe to the form he was in before that, now he's had a couple of seasons. Because I imagine, you know, Ghisolfi and Lebris might know him obviously from the French league because he had 4 years there. But yeah, I can't see him coming in and being just a first team, one of those players who you're going to say, right, we'll stick straight in. And based on the fact, you know, Ballard and 09 are in there, and are they going to be the starters, or are we going to blow someone out the water and, you know, get a real, you know, top class one, go out and spend 25, 30 million, and this lad will then be on the bench and be kind of part of the squad. I'll be surprised if we bring him, if we kind of hang our hat on him and say he's going to be the man at the back who we're going to partner 09 against or Ballard with. I'd be really surprised if that's the case. He just doesn't seem to have the profile in terms of what you really want from that person who's going to go straight into the first team. Just quickly on Ekwah though, and I might be reading into it wrong, but the way I was reading into it is that because they triggered that agreement, they're just waiting for the paperwork to go through because they had already agreed the 6 million. But what might be happening is because they agreed the 6 million, they just basically triggered it because they know they've got clubs waiting to spend 8 or 9 straight away. So possibly. It's almost like we'll bring him in.
Do you think it's just weird though that Sunderland haven't even mentioned it though?
Because there's nothing to mention because the paperwork hasn't gone through. There's nothing official. They won't say anything because there's another club involved here and they're dealing potentially with other clubs. So they're not going to say anything until something's signed and sealed, and the paperwork clearly isn't done yet. But I think
it's been a month. If it was done a month ago, you know, that's what they're saying. The clause was triggered a month ago. Yeah, so like, even a one-liner on the website to say Pierre was left Sunderland.
But you wouldn't be surprised. We're talking like the 12th of July now. You wouldn't be surprised if they had a month to see that deal through. They had an amount of time to get that deal through. You wouldn't be surprised if it was a month. And then after that, kind of all bets are off and he's a Sunderland player again or whatever. But you just don't know how long that agreement lasts for, or it might last until the end of July or something. You just don't know what the paperwork says. And because of that paperwork, Sunderland can't see anything.
By the way, Johnny, I'm going to put you on the spot. Yeah, Agwad. First Moroccan centre-half to play for Sunderland since who?
Oh, that's
Go on. I'm testing his age here, aren't I, Chris?
Moroccan.
He hasn't got a clue, has he?
Nah, why not?
Want to put him out of his misery, Chris? Go on, you know it.
El Koukouri.
Yes, Talal El Koukouri.
Oh!
You were just a little blob of spunk when he played for Sunderland, Johnny.
Annoyingly, I do know him as well. Like, I'm going to be kicking myself for half an hour after this now.
Did you notice, by the way, I talked about the lad for a few minutes. Didn't try and say his name.
No,
but I talked about
that's my problem. I need to just talk about them in anything other than actual names.
He's the Moroccan lad. That's what he.
Yeah, the Moroccan lad who was signing. Everyone would be like, now he's on about. He didn't need to pronounce it.
The big fella at the back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Speaking of potential transfers and ones which aren't coming off, we did talk at the end of the last transfer pod, me, Craig, and Bomber, about Jordan Henderson and whether he would come. And it looks like, despite the fact he's left Ajax, he's actually off to Brentford. Which a lot of Sunderland fans were hoping he would come to Sunderland. Johnny, are you disappointed on that one? Are you bothered he's not coming to Sunderland or what? I mean, I actually look at Brentford as a team we will be competing with next season. I think they're going to struggle. So I think that's a big boost to Brentford potentially because he's replacing Christian Norgard, who went to Arsenal. And yeah, Norgard's a very good player, but Jordan Henderson has a lot of Premier League experience and still has a lot to give, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen him in a Sunderland shirt, but still, seeing him go to Brentford, a team who we should be competing with next season, how does that make you feel?
Basically disappointed in the same way you are. I'm not that bothered that he's not coming to Sunderland because I think I mean, already we've signed, obviously, Diarra and Siddiqui and the Lefebvre become permanent. So we've strengthened that area of the pitch massively, without even thinking about him, which, gives me a bit of confidence on that score. But yeah, it's the fact that he's gone to a potential relegation rival. If the things that a lot of us are kind of assuming about Brentford's summer kind of bear up over the next couple of months in terms of the manager's gone, it looks like Mbeumo and Visser might leave, based on the rumourings in the press over the last few days. All that sort of stuff, like you say, and Norgard going as well, obviously. It could have left them in a massive...
Manager's gone, goalkeeper's gone.
Yeah, like
so much.
They could have been in a hugely vulnerable position. So for them to get such an experienced and calm head in is not great, but it's nice to be looking at it more from the lens of, it's a bit of a shame that our rivals have got him in, rather than thinking, oh, fucking hell, we've missed out on Henderson, what we're going to do. Because I think a lot of fans could have been forgiven for thinking that might be where we were going into this kind of summer. Until we started chucking these fees about, you couldn't know what we were going to do. But then obviously the club have put a lot of people's minds at rest with the moves that we have made. So we're not looking at this and thinking, oh, bloody hell, there's our top target gone. Which if we were in that position, then I'd be panicking. But yeah, I think it's just one of those where it's a bit of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other of, I wouldn't have minded him here, and I think he'd have given us a lot of experience, and he's obviously a good player. But I'm more bothered about what he's going to do for them. But obviously we'll see. There's a long old season to go, so I don't think one player is going to be the difference between teams staying up and going down. And certainly, no offence to him, but certainly not Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, I had 2 stories ready for this one, Chris. I was either going to be over the moon that the prodigal son had returned to Sunderland and was going to lead us through that challenging first season back in the Premier League and all the rest of it. But then my other story was, if you sign Jordan Henderson, he's taking Dan Neil's shirt, or he's certainly offering up a lot of like, if you sign Jordan Henderson, what you're saying to Dan Neil when you're trying to get him to sign a contract is, it's going to be difficult because we've just signed an England international who's won everything, and he'd be playing in your position. And I almost think that's probably why we haven't signed him, because the club believe in Dan Neil. He's the captain of the team. They're trying to get him tied down to a longer-term contract. We know his value. I think a lot of people think Dan Neil's one of the most Premier League-ready players we've got. And it's almost like, well, do we really need Jordan Henderson when you've got a player like Dan Neil? I know it's going to be a lot to ask Dan Neil to step into the Premier League and really kick on, but we obviously believe he can do it. And I don't know what you think, but I just think Jordan Henderson, if you go out and give him a contract for 2 years like Brentford have, he's not coming to Sunderland to sit on the bench, is he? And we, Diarra and Siddiqui aren't 6s, they're 8s apparently. Enzo Lefebvre isn't a 6. Dan Neil is a 6. He's the fulcrum of the team. You go out and sign Jordan Henderson, you're almost saying to Dan Neil, well, you're not as important as you maybe think you should be in this team.
Look, if you're a Brentford fan right now and you've signed a 35-year-old Jordan Henderson on a 2-year contract, and you look at Sunderland, who signed Siddiqui, Diarra and Lefebvre in the middle of the park, you're thinking, shit, we're in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way I look at it. And for people who go, and look, I wouldn't have minded. Look, stick him in as a squad player, yeah, fair enough. But if you compare that business with signing a 35-year-old on a 2-year contract, I just think there's no competition. I'd much rather do what we're doing. And for people who might turn around and say, he's there was a clip of going around of Roy Keane when he was commenting on an England game, when somebody turned around to him and said, what was it? He's good to have around the place. And he said, what does he do? Like sing a song or, hand the oranges out at half time? What does he do? You know what I mean? So it's like, saying, he's great to have around the place. But, if he's not getting a game, he's going to be walking around miserable. And look at our track record, we'd stick a 20-year-old in and give him games over a 35-year-old, even if the results aren't going right, because we're going to develop those players and they're going to make mistakes and become better players because of it. So if I just look at it like that, what type of business would I rather we do? I'd much rather do what we're doing rather than what Brentford are doing. And to me, Brentford bringing him in and looking at their business and looking what's happening there, I'd be really worried if I was a Brentford fan. I'd be really worried, and I think he's a sign of it. Just quickly though, going back to that centre half, I was looking around and I've just quickly found a West Ham fan site, which is quite interesting. Because I think this might tell us something about what West Ham fans think of him. Because it was just the other day that they were talking about this. Actually, they were talking about us first because they said West Ham United's lack of movement in the transfer market so far could not be in starker contrast to the flurry of activity over at Premier League newcomers Sunderland. No wonder many observers are already labelling that the Black Cats the winners of the window, even if the likes of Fulham, Burnley and Nottingham Forest in the recent past prove that a considerable summer spend is no guarantee of a comfortable mid-table finish. But they talk about all of these, who we've signed, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, they're saying we're spending loads of money. And then at the end, they say, the very least Sunderland could do then is offer to take Naif Igard off the Hammers' hands. So they want him out of the club, which tells you something how he's done at West Ham.
Yeah. Well, I back our recruitment. So if we decide to sign him, I'm not going to be down on it. But I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about him.
I just don't want to label, 29-year-old.
You don't want some experience, though.
You don't want to be labelled the winners of the window, though, mind. Because Man United were labelled the winners of the window last season. Look where that ended them up. So I hope we can lose that tag by the end of August.
It's interesting though how other fans are looking at what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think having can't profess to be a massive user of social media, but you can't ignore it. It's everywhere. Like fans of every other club, it's either glowing praise from other fans saying, "Bloody hell, look at Sunderland, look what they're doing," or it's proper like shitting ourselves concealed as snotty comments, like from. Most of it's coming from Mags and Leeds fans. Don't know if you've noticed it, Johnny, but Mags especially, I tell you what, I'm not going about the Mags too much, but they're doing a bad job of hiding how annoyed we're making them by being proactive, exciting, and getting attention for the right reasons while they're not. And you can kind of, you're sensing the impression that they don't like that Sunderland are doing this. They're looking at us and they're going, aye, but who are they, you need more than that to steal this, that, and the other. To me, that's just a sign we're doing the right thing. If we're annoying them because we're being good at something, to me, that's a good sign, Johnny. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing as me, but I've seen it from Leeds fans, Coventry fans, but they're obsessed with us, so, and they're irrelevant now. They're in a different league to us. But, I've seen it from Leeds fans, Mags, Coventry fans, but majority of the stuff you're seeing online is we're getting a lot of praise from neutrals who are just standing back like, freaking hell, so like, and to me, I think that was important. When we got promoted with lots of momentum, we had to try and carry that momentum on. And the best way you do that is straight out the gate. You do stuff, big moves, big transfers, exciting names, bringing in people like Ghisolfi off the pitch, the new coaches we brought in. It's just carrying that momentum on, because if Sunderland are going to stay up, and particularly with the start of the season we've got, we've been gifted a great start by the fixture list. We need momentum. We need to have a good pre-season. We need to make good signings. The squad looks in good shape, but it has to look in good shape. Even stuff as daft as the kits, man. You see the kits we're going to be walking out in, the away kit that we've already released, and you think, we even look good. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it does count, doesn't it? All this stuff counts towards the positive momentum you build up as you start off.
1,000,000%. First of all, just on the Mags, you would think they were airport supporters who happen to have a football team near them, rather than the other way around, the way they've been going on about some of Keith Downey's tweets about Sunderland.
Hey, I like that Keith Downey's turned heel on them, mind.
Oh,
he's a Mackham now.
Keith's ours. We've got Keith now. You can keep the airport and fuck off. No, just anecdotally, right, on the stuff that you were saying, I think, so I totally agree about how important it is to have that momentum and try and keep the positive feel about the club going and start the transfer window strong, and it carries from there. So one of the lads one of my mates in Leeds who I watch football with all the time, he's an Arsenal fan. And when we were about to go in the playoff final, and then just after we won it, I'd talk to him and he'd be like, yeah, I know you're in the playoff final, or I know you've won the playoff final, but you're going straight back down, aren't you? Like, let's be honest, that's just what happens in the Premier League. Because obviously he's watched the last 6 teams who've tried to come up all go straight down. Last week or so, he's been texting me saying, blimey, I tell you what, you lads are making some good moves in the transfer market, aren't you? Like, even he's like, wow, some of the stuff you are doing, I've got you up there in terms of teams who I think will stay up. Now, yeah, that's just one person who is also my friend, so he's not going to turn around and say, I think your team's absolutely dog shit. But I think that's just one example of, I think, the attitude shift that a lot of supporters up and down the country will be going through about Sunderland, because yes, we might still get relegated, and yes, it might still end up being a bad season, but I think it's made the rest of the Premier League sit up and take notice, which, as a newly promoted team, is almost all you can ask for at this stage, because as we sit here in not quite even the middle of July, we're a long way from our first competitive game back, so we can't win people over with our amazing brand of football yet. All we can do is be run well and sign well, and I think it's safe to say that we are doing that up to this point, at least on paper. So yeah, I think it is really important, because if that positive feeling carries through, the crowd will be behind the team 100%, which I'm sure we would be anyway, but that positive feeling going into the Stadium of Light for that first game against West Ham, after this window, everyone's going to be buzzing just to watch us play, which I think is huge.
Yeah, it's all looking good, Chris, and like I said, I know it doesn't count for much, but when other fans of other clubs are talking Sunderland up when we've just been promoted, it does reaffirm in my mind we're doing the right things, because we're being different. We're not coming up and doing the same things every other club does. Sunderland have got a very defined way they want to do things, and we're being quite ambitious. I mean, even if we go all the way back to that Ghisolfi interview, which you're right, he didn't give much away, but he sounds confident and assured. And I don't know if you heard the interviews with Christian Speakman and Kira Louis-Dreyfus and Regis Labrie this week that have gone out all over the various platforms. But everybody's talking like Sunderland aren't just going up there to make up the numbers. And the ultimate aim is to stay up, right? But if you shoot high as you possibly can, with everything you do, and you sell that ambition to players you're trying to sign, it gives you a far better chance than doing what, say, Ipswich did or Southampton did, where you almost got the impression from the first minute of pre-season that they had no intention of staying in the Premier League.
Yeah, we haven't gone down that route of, well, like everyone talked about Ipswich building a good Championship side. These signings aren't built for going back down into the Championship. I mean, especially, really. I mean, you watch the interview with Diarra. I mean, he's not messing about. I mean, you saw when he was talking, you saw his ambition, and he's like, I'm kind of going to make it to the top, basically. And he's like, hopefully, with Sunderland, he signed a 5-year contract, but he's like, I'm here to do business. I'm here to kind of do what I do. He says, I can't remember what, there was a question where I think there was like talking about being in the Premier League or something like that, and he says, I'm me, basically. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to do what I do. And you can just see he's confident, and he knows what type of player he is. He knows how good he is, and that's at 21-year-old. And you've got all this talent who's come in for 25, 30 million quid. 20 years old, 21 years old, 23 years old, all signing 5-year contracts. Now, you can't bluff, in negotiations, you can't bluff players and say, oh yeah, we're going to be great, or we're going to keep building. Players know. And there was an interesting thing as well with Diarra, where he was talking about Labrie and he was talking about the negotiations, and he said, I trust him. And he said, I'm proud that he's my manager.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, just the type of fella Labrie is, and he just knows that, that he's already got that trust. And I think as a club, these players trust us, that we're probably saying, look, we don't expect you. We're going to sign a 5-year contract, but we're part of your journey, like the Joe Bellingham deal. We spoke to him and we're saying, we're part of your journey. You're not going to be with us for 5-10 years, or not necessarily, but you're going to be brilliant for a couple of years, and we're going to sell you for twice as much, and you're going to go on potentially to win Champions League or whatever, but we're going to be part of that, and we're going to work together to do that. So the ambition of the club to keep building like that, because it gets to the point in the Premier League, look at where Brighton are, look at the deals they're doing. You hit a point where actually it starts to kind of slow down in that ambition, and you've got to really build quite slowly, and you've got to lose a few players and then bring a few more in. And it's a steady build. But to bring these young players in just shows the ambition and shows the conversations we're having for them to come in and sign such a long-term contract.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place to end things off as I can possibly think. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been great. And Johnny, you'll be back with me later today, I think, to react to the South Shields game. So let's hope we see plenty of goals and there's loads to talk about, and we come away more happy thoughts off the end of a podcast. They're all happy podcasts at the minute. It's nice, isn't it? Even the ones where we're laying into each other for top 10 picks and things like that. So,
why, they're the best, man. But I can't wait. Talking about Sunderland more. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I just want to give a little shout out as well. There is a fundraiser on the go at the minute from Sunderland fans over on the Ready to Go fans forum, raising money for the Bradley Lowry Foundation. I think because Bradley Lowry Foundation have a box at the stadium, I like they're raising money to pay for refreshments and things. For the box and all these other things. Fantastic cause. Sunderland fans are the ones running this, so I'll stick the link to the Just Giving page in our show notes, but also if you want to read a little bit more about it, you can head to Ready to Go. The thread is on the Pure Football Forum. I did say to Craig I would give that one a shout out, so yes, if you would like to support the Bradley Lowry Foundation as a Sunderland fan, make sure you chuck a couple of quid in that, and I'll be sure to do that when I get off this call. Thanks very much, chaps. It's been great. Go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to go back in the garden and have a whiskey and ginger and chill out. I think that's going to be nice. So enjoy, thanks, Mr. Mate. Johnny. Enjoy.
Yes, I shall do. For legal purposes, I'll just be having a drink as well.
Yeah. And Chris, enjoy. And you're back in the motherland this weekend, aren't you? So enjoy your trip back up north.
I am. So, this is a quick half hour, by the way, Gav. Bloody hell.
I know. Bloody hell. Over an hour. Sorry, everyone. If you're still with us, well done. But I think we gave you good value for this podcast. There's loads crammed into this one. Cheers, chaps. Thank you very much, listeners. We will be back, as I say, after the match this afternoon with a reaction pod, which should be out. What's it kicking off at 4:00? Yeah, it should be out around 7:30, 8 o'clock. We'll see.
Check out the preview. It's on the site, Gav.
Yes, and of course, let's get that plug in. Yeah, go to rotereport.sbnation.com. Plenty to read over there. Chris wants you to read his preview. Even if you're the only person to read it, just do it. It makes him feel like it's been worth his time. I'll read them, Chris. Don't worry about it, mate.
Oh, well, I'll do it just for you, Gav.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, everyone. We'll see you after the game, and we'll also be back with a pod on Sunday morning. We'll catch you then. We'll see you later.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.